Neil, a recall for Sam Hornby. What's the problem?
The problem is that Rob Layton didn't play in the reserves last week because he had a problem with his hip, and then I wanted him to play in the reserves tomorrow, but the physio informed me today that he needs to go for a scan on his hip. So if he's going to be on the bench, he obviously needs to be fully fit, which he isn't, so we need to recall Sam and obviously put him on the bench and let him play in the reserves, and then that's what we've decided to do.
I know the ideal thing is to have a number one and play that goalkeeper all season. It must be so frustrating for you, all the problems you've had.
The goalkeeping situation has been a problem all season. There's no getting away from the fact, and there's been a lot of decisions that have been made which have caused problems from the start of the season, and of which that is one of them.
Irrespective of what happens in the remainder of the season, that must be a priority for you this summer, the goalkeeping department.
There's a lot of priorities, but at the moment I can't really focus on what's going to happen for next season, because the situation we're in the league, I'm only thinking, and obviously 24 hours of the day, I'm only thinking about surviving this season. I'm not even looking towards any longer than that, because that's really all that everybody's got to focus on at the moment.
Genuinely, how worried are you about the position?
I was obviously worried when I took over. We had a good couple of months where we got out of trouble in terms of league position, but unfortunately I never got carried away when we were doing well, and I think other people were. I tried to remind everyone that we were in a relegation battle, and it's only turned out exactly how we thought it would be when we took over. But it is a worry. It's been a worry all the time. It was probably December was a great month, and it give everybody cause for optimism. But since then, it's gone back to square one, if you like, and now we are in the fight we thought we were when I first took over.
Apart from trying to keep everybody's feet on the ground, you just said you didn't get carried away during December. You took 13 points from 15 in that month. Why didn't you get carried away? Because that's not relegation battle form.
Because when we first came in, we looked at the squad, we looked at the problems that had been in the goalkeeping department. We looked at the fact that there wasn't a recognised left back in the squad, and we recognised that we only had one goal scorer at the club. So it was fantastic in that month, but it's come back, to reality, really, I would say. And obviously with Tom Pope struggling with injury, and he was a player, and he is a player that we've relied on. The lack of goals in terms of the forward players is now a big problem. You can dress things up, but I'd have to say, without being, I don't think it's been disrespectful, but there's a lot of forward players at the club who have to do more, who've not done enough this season, who have got to start doing more in terms of chipping in with goals and work rate and effort. And surely they've got to look to themselves and think, why am I not getting in the team when I've got a 32-year-old striker playing on one leg? It's got to be, the onus has got to be now down to other players at the club in terms of strikers to start producing some performances in training, but more importantly on the pitch.
How is he feeling, Tom Pope, after Saturday?
I think whatever Tom says, whatever. Tom would play for the club if he's injured or not. But the team's performance have not been great, and Tom's not been at the level he was. But it's because he's not fully fit.
Do you have to be careful how you manage Tom Pope? Because like you say, he'd play regardless of what his injury was. Do you have to look at the situation and think maybe I might have to take
No,
control?
I will have to take control because I'll have to make a decision where he needs to get, he needs to, or we need to get him in a position where he can play some games where he is going to be fully fit. So we're very close now to having to make that decision.
Do you feel Joe Davies has got a future as a right back?
We're just completely changing the subject there. Joe Davis has got a future if he performs like any of the players. Is it a right back? Is it a centre back? Then performances will dictate. The one thing I've said about Joe is, if I ask him to do something, or that we ask him to do something, then he will carry it out and he will give 100% in terms of effort and commitment. And we are in a relegation fight, so we're going to need some people who are prepared to battle and scrap, and to get us through it. And obviously with Joe, he is somebody who I know is prepared to fight and scrap for the club. But his future, I'd have to say, is like the other players. We're all in the players' hands for all of our futures. So the best way of protecting his own future is for the team to get out of this position that we're in.
I want to ask you about the reserves game at Grimsby tomorrow and say, is it a chance for people to stake a claim for a first team place? Is it past that now? Because I've asked you that question about 10 times.
Well, the first thing is the game might be off tomorrow because of the weather, so I don't know if it's going to be on. But no, I think the reserve games you can get a false impression at times with those games. I think they're very good for if people need game time, they haven't had a lot of football. So I think for that it's probably a benefit. But we've got enough time in training this week for some players to really show they want to play on Saturday, because Saturday is a massive game, and we're going to need characters that are going to be strong. They're going to stand up for the battle, and characters who are going to handle the pressure, because when it gets to this stage and you're playing against teams around you, then character is a big thing.
And finally, linking together everything you've said then, a word on Saturday's game. You said you need characters for it, and you've said you're close to making a decision about Tom Pope's fitness, and you might have to make that decision. Will he be fit for Saturday?
At this moment in time, I can't say if he'll be fit for Saturday. I need to speak to Tom, and he certainly can't. He won't be. In terms of training, he's going to have to do very little, and we have to decide whether we can risk him on Saturday or not.